So as I sit here, about to enjoy my morning coffee, and I'm aware of all the news unfolding around me, I have spent 2 full years grieving in my mind the fact that I would never see my grandfather again, or anyone that lives overseas, and I would never step foot in the land that this physical being was born into, the land of my ancestors. And there was a lot of fire around that. There was a lot of sadness around that. There was a lot of hopelessness, despair, all the fucking things around that I chose to begin to make peace with. And I did. And I arrived to a point where I was so certain that's just not my reality. Because we have now entered a different world of, well, where global control is the goal and the execution. So, and then, I'm not here to discuss the merits of that, because it's blatantly open in the World Economics Forum. Everybody from every government and every institution is involved with the World Economic Forum. This is not news. So I just move forward with that presupposition. What this latest news, which some people, I'm sure, will take as evidence that our governments follow the science. Obviously, the science changes overnight, so that's why they make decisions one day and tell us the next day, because we couldn't possibly handle it before then. So what I see in this is a schizophrenic response to what's going on. It is keeping us on our toes. So there you are grieving 1 minute, and then the next minute there's this like ounce of hope that like, look, you could go. And then it's like, oh, but don't get too caught up in that, because you don't know if that's going to be the case. Like, you got to look up all the requirements that are now there for people like you, or everybody else. And then you've got on the other side people who are like, oh, how could you open it to those people? Oh my God, they're going to kill us all. So we've got everybody in here, everybody in the general population that is absolutely confused, unsettled, in a high state of anxiety, not knowing what to ever expect. Ever, never having a clear path, because everywhere they give you something or they take away something, they do it with this caveat, is that the word? Whatever. With this like, well, yes, you can now travel, but we reserve the right to change our mind at any time, unpredictably, and yet somehow still following the science. Like, the contradictions are absolutely uncanny. So, if you're feeling uncertain, if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling unsettled, if you're feeling like a maniac, if you're feeling like you're split in different directions, know that that is an intentional feeling. It is a manipulated creation for you to feel like that. So it's like a partner that is withholding, a partner that is constantly abusive but yet retracts and says, look, I'm doing it for your own good, or like a parent like that. It's like somebody that is abusive and manipulative and will not own up to that because they're also narcissistic. So they'll tell you to your face while gaslighting you that it's for your own good. They'll tell you to your face that this is somehow something that they've considered and they've decided that for you, how patronizing, but for you, this is the right thing to do. This is the best decision, and we really deeply care. And while there's lack of evidence of that, and in fact there's evidence to the exact contrary, we continue to legitimize these institutions. We continue to listen to them. We continue to follow their fucking rules. And now we're going to very, I want to say seamlessly, but it doesn't seem like it will be seamless because there's a lot of people resisting. But the intention, anyway, is to take the 90% of people that want to be digital and seamlessly give them their digital passports and not point to any problems around that. Like, what happens when everybody knows everything about you and has control over how you behave? So it's not enough that corporations know everything about us, because corporations in and of themselves defer to states to make rules and regulations and laws, etc. However, when the power of the regulations, with everything that they know about us, is merged with the power of the state, which has the fucking guns, what ends up happening is total control over our individual lives. So basically, which is now happening in China with Alibaba, because of course the Chinese have been at this for at least 10 years with their social credit experiments. So what happens there is that now, it's a good thing, right? Now you can purchase products on Alibaba and they'll tell you the carbon footprint of that particular product. Wonderful. What happens when my carbon footprint is rationed? And because I've lived through communist Albania and rationing, I get it. Like, I get how it fucking works. So what happens at that point when they ration our ability to drive, or our ability to buy certain kinds of food or certain kinds of products or travel certain kind of places? And, you know, so I guess even though this post was, 7 minutes of like different directions, but the point is that everything is interconnected. At least my point this morning is that everything is interconnected. And if we're not paying attention to how these things are interconnected, we're going to focus solely on numbers. We're going to focus solely on the fact that we trust our governments for whatever fucking reason. We're going to focus solely on like how good it is that the World Economic Forum is involved, because they're powerful and they have conferences. How good it is that the social passport will link everything in one place. And look, if you've got nothing to hide, then why would you worry? That has been the mindset of every quote-unquote good citizen ever, until they get fucked. I'm suggesting that we don't have to wait to discover how we're being fucked. We can presuppose that, considering what's going on around us, considering what we've seen with our own two fucking eyes and experienced with our own bodies in the last at least 2.5 years. So we don't fucking have to wait. And certainly, the more that we pretend, the more that we're going to find ourselves deeply entrenched in the particular narrative, and the harder it is to actually pull ourselves out of that, because we will be deeply committed to that narrative, and then we will die trying to be right. And our bodies are going to be irreconcilable inside ourselves, because we know the truth. We know what fear masks. We know what rage masks. We know what hopelessness masks. We know what disease masks. It is a messenger. It is a metaphor. It is a messenger for how it is that we're choosing to live our lives, specifically in relation to how it is that we choose to continue to lie to ourselves. So I, for one, am not interested in that. I would rather live this certain kind of life where I trust my own instincts. So, yes, yesterday when I heard the news about the travel lifting, and when my previous work messaged me to consider if I want to come back now that, the restrictions have been lifting. And, it was this immense external pressure to make a decision now about my future. So it's like overnight, flip a switch from this reality to this reality, flip a switch from this reality to this reality, flip another switch from this reality to this reality. Completely inconsistent, completely incongruent, completely unpredictable in the most, I apologize, but this is the only way I can think of it, is schizophrenic kind of way. The most like, whoa, 1 minute here and then 1 minute over here and then gone is that reality and you have no idea where the fuck you've been thrown off to. So, what does this mean? What this might mean, at least for me, is a recognition that while I see the large trajectory, while I see what's happening, while I see the links between what happened with COVID and the mindset that they're instilling and the fear and the kind of disconnection from any ability to decipher anything, the shaming, the publicly humiliating, the firing of people, the telling people those children are going to kill our children, and so on and so forth. All of that is linked to the social credit system. It is linked to this digital passport and the digital currencies that are currently being used. It's not like, oh, this is 20 years down the line. This is a tomorrow thing. So this is a like, have some freedom now so you can travel a little bit or whatever, and you think that everything might be going back to normal. And then just like that, because of course the warnings are there, we don't know what's going to happen in fall. We don't know what's going to happen in fall. Well, we reserve the right to change our minds in fall. Well, wait a minute. If you're following the science, how the fuck do you know future? But this is called future pacing. Anybody with any experience in hypnosis or how you talk to people, like therapy or coaching or anything that tells you about how psychology, basically human psychology, knows that this is called future pacing. So you tell us what's happening now in this muddled kind of way, and then you keep us confused about what's going to be happening. So the pressure is immense to do something now, something drastic, whether that's like, injecting yourself with something you don't want in your body, or whether that's losing your job, or whether that's now being able to see your fucking family that you have grieved for years that you won't see. So it's like the pressure is immense, continuous, and intentional. So I don't know what's going to happen. I cannot predict the future, but I can see patterns. And so my only personal salvation that I believe is the only salvation for each individually, and then all of us collectively, is to be able to find that space inside of ourselves that knows something about the truth of our own selves, our own experience. So the place of center, the place of calm, the place of stillness, the place of space, because that is the space that will let us know how to move forward. That is literally the opposite space of fear, of constriction, of even hopelessness, because all of these have this energetic closing in on ourselves, which is literally the opposite of creating space, becoming space, embodying space. So, I don't know what to tell you other than I'm here too. I'm with you. I have a 2-year-old son who's growing up in this world and yet is is in another world, because I don't live my life based on the external pressures. I am here to experience being in this world, and so I'm not fooled by the illusions that are perpetually flowing our way. So it used to be like, I don't know, commercials. It used to be, Dove and telling me how beautiful I am or am not. It used to be, injections or Viagra or like fill in the blank or what I need at 2 in the morning from Burger King or whatever. It's like all of that is a form of propaganda. All of that is a form of conditioning us to externally reference. So, like, to pay attention to what they, whoever they happens to be, the more of an expert, the better. Or not, because, I mean, it's not like advertising for Viagra has, any, like, it's not like the benefit from that or anything. So, it's like totally, it's for our own good. So, I've always known. I've always paid attention to these things and I've always known. And now it is so massive that it is like impossible to reconcile. It is impossible to be able to make any sense of or like know with any kind of certainty or predict with any kind of certainty the kind of future that we will be facing. And at the same time, so do you see it's like this and this constantly like moving together, right? Because it's like if this then this and if this then this, and it's this constant dance. So on one hand, the future has yet to happen. On the other hand, because of how we're moving toward it in every single moment, it has already happened, right? And the way that it has already happened in the minds of those who are powerful and who can sh- um, shape the direction of the collective behavior. And because of that, it feels like it has already happened. And because we live in a holographic universe, those with more ability to shape and direct collective behaviors know where they're going to go and how they're going to get there. They can see it, they can sense it, they can feel it in their bodies. They are already there. This is simply the means to an end. What's happening right now is the means to an end. So what is that end? And I believe, considering what we're seeing, considering the immense push toward the biodigital convergence as per even our government's website, Policy Horizons, considering that that's what we're idealizing, considering that that's what we want, considering that the social credit system is already here, considering that the digital currencies are on their way and in some places already here, considering that digital passports are already here and linked to every aspect of our life. Thanks, Google. Considering that that's already here, like Italy's already implementing these passports. So, like, pay attention to what's going on in the world. It tells you things about what's coming here. Because This is a move toward global governance. They don't fucking stutter when they say that. Global governance. So visit the World Economic Forum and just pay attention to what they're talking about and how they talk about it. Pay attention to how much they care about our carbon footprint while all of them drive to Davos, fly with their private jets. So pay attention to what they're telling you as opposed to how they're living their lives. Pay attention to what they're asking of you as opposed to what they're actually doing themselves. And notice the contradictions and notice what sits right for you and what doesn't. And notice what comes up as any of the major responses in your body. So what makes you feel fearful as you hear the numbers or as you hear these people traveling or whatever? What makes you feel fearful? And maybe delve into what is it about you that you believe to be true that makes you believe that this narrative has merit in terms of giving it your fear or rage or hopelessness or despair or shame even. So, how do we move forward in an inherently violent, abusive, contradictory, paralyzing at times, anxiety-ridden, despair-ridden, pretty much hopeless seeming. How do we move forward in a world that says human beings are better at being robots than they are at being human beings? How do we move forward in a world that wants to indoctrinate ourselves, and particularly our children, into believing that living in the metaverse is better for them than living in whatever this current iteration of reality is, where at least we're connected with our bodies and the signals that come in we can decipher from whose radio channel am I tuning into. Is this my parents' voice? Is this the government's voice? Is this my own internal voice of intuition and impulse? Is this the voice of, like, is this the voice of anchors? Is this, like, what are the channels that I'm tuning into? And this is only possible through this device called the body. This is the radio receiver. But if my consciousness, whatever that is downloaded into a series of 0 1s or whatever, the only place I can receive a signal from is whoever it is that can send the signal from there. So it is fucking brilliant as a total and complete control mechanism. Previously impossible. So this is maybe the next iteration of evolution/devolution, where we turn into a merger of robots. And then the question becomes, well, who then has human rights, and are humans any longer? And, you know, all that stuff that I talked about in my biodigital convergence, the Canadian government and the new transhuman. It's a blog post, but really it's an essay. Because those are the questions that are currently not being considered while we're being sold this wet dream of the likes of Elon Musk and whoever the fuck else. So, a lot to say about nothing. I don't know. If something I said was meaningful for you and you'd like to have a conversation around it, message me. I'd love to hear from you. I know this isn't an easy time. No matter where you stand on any of the things that I said, like, it doesn't matter if you're injected, if you chose to remain injection free. It doesn't matter if you did it to keep your job, or, you know, you did it because you thought it was the right thing to do. It doesn't matter if you continue to believe in it or if you don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter if you know anything about the transhumanist agenda, or if you know nothing. It doesn't matter if you know about the digital passports or the digital currencies, or you know nothing. It doesn't matter if you believe it's going to happen or not. You know inside yourself how you feel and how you've been feeling in the last 2 years. And you know inside yourself that it's quite possibly impossible to reconcile and to find truth. So I don't know that we ever were able to find truth other than the one that we instinctually sense into when we know what to look for. Like, that is the only place we can actually find truth. Capital T truth that nobody can fuck with, because we know. And yet all this other junk is there to like mud it up and for us not to be able to decipher it. But the truth of it is that each and every single one of us that still has a body, we can tap into that when we begin to kind of notice, integrate, and let go of the conditioning that has kept us stagnated, small, etc. You know, like however people feel shitty about themselves, that's not them. That's not you. So, for myself, if I didn't have access to that, if I didn't know myself as what I know myself as, the God force manifested, consciousness manifested in the physical realm, simply here to have an experience with my free will, with my ability to choose. I choose to pay attention to the instinctual messages of my body. And sometimes it means I sleep for 12 hours because I'm exhausted with everything that's going on in the world. But I wake up and I notice what I notice. And I know what I know. And I don't pretend for one fucking nanosecond inside myself that I don't know what I know. I don't pretend. And I encourage my clients, my friends, my family, anybody that's willing to listen to me, to stop pretending inside themselves, because that's exactly what has led to this world. Maddening world of deep, profound disconnect from our core essence, from our core selves, from our humanity, from our aliveness, from our enlivenedness, from our connection to ourselves and everything around us, from our connection to the earth, from our connection to the body, from our connection to the divine. So, I'm not willing to live like that. Are you? Is the life that you're living the life that you want to be living? Are the 65,000 thoughts that you have a day the thoughts that you want to be having? Are the sensations in your body the sensations that you want to be experiencing? Or is there something getting in the way and you feel stuck, trapped, unable? So as we move through, we are in a transitionary period, a revolution of sorts. So from the Industrial Revolution now to the Transhumanist Revolution. So as we're moving through that, how do you want to move through it? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? How willing are you to discover another way to live, an alternative way to live than that which you've believed your whole life is real? because I'm really aware that incremental change in this sinking Titanic we call this version of civilization or whatever. What does Louise say? It's like moving the deck chairs in a sinking Titanic. I believe that's what most people out there working for anything, that's what they're doing. They're trying to do some good, but unfortunately, they're just putting band-aids on a gushing, rotten wound that is the totality that is the patriarchal paradigm, which everything else stems from. It's like it's a mindset, it's a paradigm, just like transhumanism is a mindset, is a paradigm that follows the patriarchal notions of existence while ignoring everything else. So unless and until we address the mindset, we're just gonna keep moving the chairs around and keep putting band-aids on predicaments until we die. So, do we die by natural causes? Do we die by climate change? Do we die by capitulating our minds to the transhumanists? I don't know. But I know how I'm living, and in accepting whatever's coming, I just continue to live my life from the signal that I am, from the I am that I know myself to be. So, anybody that wants to have that conversation with me, email me. Until then, I'm going to go enjoy this coffee.